Okay, my friends, my fellow MSTR cult members. If you follow me on X, you may have seen a graphic that I published recently that illustrates my new default framework for thinking about strategy. And so in this video, I want to essentially unpack that graphic, which will hopefully be appearing on your screen in more detail. Now, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of Michael Saylor. What is Saylor's goal? His goal is to acquire as much Bitcoin as humanly possible. So what can Saylor do to achieve that goal? Well, he can raise capital. Then the question becomes, what can Saylor do to maximize the amount of capital that he can generate to buy Bitcoin? Well, he can create financial products that appeal to the entire investor spectrum. Now, why is that important? It's important because different investors are optimizing for different outcomes based on their volatility, risk, and return goals. So for example, some investors want income, and so they will buy a product like Strike or Strive. Some investors want downside protection, so they'll buy a convertible bond. Some investors are comfortable with the volatility of MSTR stock, and so they'll buy the equity. Some investors want even more leverage than what MSTR offers, and so they'll buy one of the leveraged ETFs. And some investors want maximum returns, and so they'll trade call options. The point is, Saylor doesn't care what products investors choose because they all benefit strategy in some way. Now, having said that, not all products are created equal. What do I mean by that? Well, each product has a different level of what we call Bitcoin talk, which is a new metric that has been introduced by strategy, which essentially measures the return on capital for every dollar invested. And so each product has a different degree of accretion. For example, convertible bonds have more Bitcoin talk. In other words, they're more accretive than the ATM. Strike has more Bitcoin talk than convertible bonds, and Strive has more Bitcoin talk than Strive. Why is all this important? Well, because if you're an equity shareholder, you care about Bitcoin yield and Bitcoin per share, and so you want strategy to maximize both metrics. Now, what does strategy do with all the capital that they accumulate? Well, they convert it into Bitcoin. That generates Bitcoin yield and increases Bitcoin per share. And as a byproduct, by executing this process at scale, not only is strategy digitizing the global capital markets, but they are accelerating in real time the transition to a Bitcoin standard, a world where not only are we using Bitcoin as a store of value, which is primarily what it's being used for right now, but we are using it as a medium of exchange and a unit of account. Now, the more Bitcoin that strategy acquires, the stronger its balance sheet becomes, and the more capital it can raise to then go and buy even more Bitcoin, which creates this incredible flywheel effect. And again, this is why I love this model, because not only does it effectively capture what strategy is doing in the strategy playbook, but it demonstrates just how simple the strategy is. So again, just to summarize the graphic, strategy creates financial products to attract investors. Investors deploy capital into those products. Strategy then takes that capital and converts it into Bitcoin. That increases the size of strategy's treasury, strengthens their balance sheet, and enables them to raise even more capital, and then the cycle repeats. So hopefully that will make sense. Hopefully after watching this, you have a better understanding of the mechanics behind strategy. I've tried to simplify it as much as possible. I mean, the irony is that the playbook is inherently simple anyway. But I know for me, seeing the framework laid out visually, as in the graphic that you can see, makes it so much easier to conceptualize and grasp what's actually going on. If you want to get hold of the graphic or download it, then you can find it on my X account at Chris Millas. You'll find it in the highlights section, so you won't have to scroll too far down. And yeah, again, hope you found this helpful. And until next time, remember, the best is yet to come.